All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rakakadash. Double honest, it was a process of great millstone, taught us truth and rule well. Peace, best inside Texas, how I came out there, scared abroad to the foreground of the earth. That's certain the truth, thought, truth, and sincerity. To I say Shalom. This has been the Bible, continuing the video in the spirit. And the topic of this video is going to be about uproars and earthquakes, and what sparked this video topic was, this past weekend, you seen that it was mass protests going on, across the country, and they were protesting the Trump administration. So I'm gonna grab the scripture. This is 2 Ezra 9:1. It says, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. So how do we measure the times? We measure the times, through the prophecies, through the things that's happening, in the world, and linking them up with the scriptures. And it says, verse 3, it says, therefore, when thou shalt be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. So these things are spoken of, before, in the beginning of times, and now we can see them coming forth. So seeing these things coming forth now helps us understand that, Yahawashi is visiting this place, and he's preparing himself. He's preparing this place, for the ultimate visitation of Yahawashi. That's what the Heavenly Father is getting ready to do. To give Yahawashi that go ahead to return to this place. So that's how we can, from seeing these things that's happening, from these uproars and these earthquakes that's happening, that we're getting closer and closer to Yahawashi returning. And it's only going to continue to get worse. It's only going to continue to increase. I seen on the news feed that I believe it was this past weekend or last week that it was 4 earthquakes in Texas in a matter of about 6 hours. Then you had that massive earthquake that happened. I forgot the country that it happened in, but that happened. So, and then I looked up. If you type in, you can go to Google and you can type in earthquakes today or earthquake update, something like along those lines, and it will show you, the earthquakes that are most recent when they've happened. And when I looked up on there, it's like, man, it's earthquakes happen every day for sure, but it's so many earthquakes that happen today that you don't even hear about. And, you have the small scale, the low magnitudes, but the fact that it's that many earthquakes happening around the world, because they tell you about the different earthquakes that happen just around the world, not just here in America. It's a lot. So that's another reason that's another way how we can measure the time and know where we at, and seeing how things are ramping up and the things that are happening to earth. We are getting closer and closer to Yahawashi returning. So I'm gonna come over here. So in 2 Ezra 15, I'm gonna grab verse 15. It says, for the sword of their destruction drove nigh, and the one people should stand up and fight against another with swords in their hands. And that's what we're leading to. Okay, we're leading to these things about to happen, where people are going to start, physically fighting one another, because that's how it starts with these protests. You got a lot of people who are against the Trump administration. You got some people who's still okay, but the ones who really not really going to be affected by that much is the rich. So the ones who are being affected by it, they're the ones who are going to be mad, and they're going to want to start, taking up arms against the rich, and the ones who doing pretty good. And then not even that, no one's going to be safe, because as long as these tariffs keep going on, this trade war keeps going on, it's gonna make things, prices skyrocket. Things are gonna cost more, and then you got, I seen, not too long ago on an Instagram post that they are laying off, I think, 900 employees from an automotive plant. So it's gonna be more and more layoffs. Things are gonna continue to increase in pricing, and people are not gonna be able to afford these things. So when you're not gonna be able to afford these things, then what? People gonna what? They're gonna be invading one another. They're gonna be fighting against one another. And then you continue to read verse 16. It says, "For there should be sedition among men, and invading one another. They should not regard their kings nor princes. In the course of their actions shall stand in their power." Yeah, and that's talking about your government officials. Your mayors, your governors. For the people who sit on those power seats, they're not going to regard what they're saying or their safety or regard their safety either. If you're able to be touched, then you're going to get touched. Because that's the type of times we're coming into, where it's going to be complete lawlessness out here. And then you can see how that will lead to them implementing martial law, shutting cities down. Because when you read to the next verse, it says, "A man should desire to go into a city and shall not be able." They implement martial law, and you're not going to be able to go into these other cities. They're going to have checkpoints set up and blockade set up where you're not gonna be able to leave, and then we already know what happens after that. Once they get that set up and they set up their perimeters, then it's all gonna make it easier for them when the MOTB is implemented, to go door by door, and you're gonna take it or you're not, and then they're gonna throw you in that camp, or you just gonna be taken out right then and there. But these are the times that we're entering into, man. Very serious times, and these are things that were spoken about in the scriptures, and it's up to us as being watchmen to tell you about these things, to tell Jake about these things, so to warn them, because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to give you that warning. You're supposed to sound that trumpet. Now if you take heed to it or not, that's on you. But we're just doing our part. So I'm going to grab this. This is Luke 21. And I'm going to start at 9. It says, "But when you shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. Then said he unto them, Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And great earthquakes shall be in divers places, and famines and pestilence, and fearful sights and great signs shall there be from heaven." So these things are happening. I think the time of the Passover, but the time of the Passover, we had the blood moon. I forgot the exact disease they was talking about. It was down there in Texas and 2 other states, but the cases had went up. It was supposed to be a disease here in Michigan that was brought in from someone on a plane, so different pestilence, and then famine, when the inflation goes up and then these trade wars keep going on, stuff is not going to be able to get imported, or things are not going to be getting imported as frequently as they once was. The shelves are going to be empty. The storehouses are going to be empty. Scriptures talk about that. And like I said, earthquakes in diverse places. The earthquakes happening all over the world, man. And there's earthquakes happening in places that have never been earthquakes before. All these are signs knowing that we are getting closer and closer to Yahawashi returning. So like I said, things are going to continue to increase, and continue to ramp up. Things are not going to get better. So with all these things going on, it's that's why our apostles and elders has been on us, to tighten up, and it's definitely time to tighten up, because it's about to get it's getting real out here. It's not about to. It's getting real out here. And if you can't see it, then you just lost. Because it's evident. People in the world can see that something is happening and something is getting ready to happen. That how things are ramping up. So things that these things that's happening have never happened before to this level. Where you got all these different terrors going on, you got all these different wars going on in all these different countries, man. You can see that everything is leading, to some big event that is about to happen. And all roads do lead to World War III. Then you got, a lot of different things happening in the earth. Up here in Michigan, one of the I think it was lakes or rivers. It was a lot of just dead fish, just floating around. It's a lot of, like they say, strange things going on, but we understand that this is the works of Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, and this is signs for us that's in the knowing to identify where we are at. So we just gonna continue to do the work, man. Continue to do the work. Continue to pray. Hold on to the faith. And patiently wait until Yahawashi returns, and continue to get that warning. And Yahawah desire, y'all take heed to it. So that's pretty much it. Lord, when this video is edifying, I'm going to close out by giving our praise to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Kakadash. Shalom.